All right, we are live. Welcome everyone to our fabulous Tuesday night interviews with Festively and some amazing guests. We're always so thrilled to join you on a Tuesday and so humbled that you are with us as we learn and grow together. Tonight we have a fabulous guest, which we're just really thrilled to know her as a partner and friend, Tina Lee with In the Clouds event. Say hi, Tina.
Hi, everybody.
And of course, my cat makes her weekly appearance, so you can ignore her. And we'll get kind of into Tina's interesting, background and everything else in just a minute. But first, as we like to do, just check in with each other and see how you guys are doing. How are you guys doing? How's your week going? Iris, I know you mentioned you're a little bit worried about your family from back home, right?
Yeah, I'm from Louisiana, and so they're on like a double hurricane watch. And so I've been on the Weather Channel all day just to kind of see if the storm is going to weaken. But a lot of people that are in the Gulf have already evacuated. So we're just, wishing for the best for them. Yeah, they had to move from south up to north
Uh,
out of the way of the storm. So far, so good. Everyone seems to be in good spirits.
oh, well, we'll definitely keep them in our thoughts, and hopefully everything is smooth sailing for them. How are you doing, Tina?
I'm good. Just catching up with virtual school with the kids and our style shoot
Yeah.
and our clients. So typical day, I guess.
Well, and I saw you actually make some really fancy snacks for your kids. Is that?
Oh no, I don't.
Were
I
you
am not
copying and
very
pasting?
good in the kitchen. So
Really?
don't ask me to bake. Don't ask me to cook. I could do any kinds of arts and crafts science experiment. That's okay. I could do those. I just did a volcano this afternoon. It was kind of pretty awesome, but now it's a mess, and
Nice.
I have to clean it.
Very cool. Well, I'm still going to give you credit because I'm sure you did something great snack wise. Yeah.
Thanks.
Well,
How's your week
awesome.
going? How was your week, Patty?
It's good. It's good. Just, lots going on. My husband's building a man cave in the garage.
Ooh.
And so that means that he had to build a shed on the side of the house, which means I had to clean out the garage. And so I was trying not to be involved, but you can't, I was trying to let it be his project, but it didn't. So,
She pulled you
well,
in.
oh yes, for sure. Well, awesome. Well, thank you. Glad everyone's doing well. How are you guys doing out there? Let us know in the chat. We know back to school is really tough. And then we've got a lot of really hardworking ladies out there working on our Festively Holiday events and gift guide. So I know that is also a big thing on all of our plates this week and the last few weeks. And so we will talk about that and everything else. Hello, everybody out there. Everyone is doing well, staying busy, trying to stay cool. I love it. Okay, so we brought in Tina because we really wanted to talk about a couple of things, actually. Tina's an event planner. We got introduced to Tina. Was it earlier? It was earlier this year. It feels like eons ago,
I
right?
know.
Was
Yeah.
it this
I
year?
feel like, yeah, because
Oh
the
wow.
style shoot we did was in February, I think.
Yep. It was February.
So I'm pretty sure it was earlier this year. I don't think it was late last year. Um, and a friend of ours or another partner in the industry said, if you're doing a styled shoot and you want a wonderful event planner, check in with Tina. She'd be awesome. Tina,
Oh, Liz.
yes,
Liz, yes.
Liz connected us. Yes. And
Thanks, Liz.
so I know. So and this is where we had never done a styled shoot before, so we really had no clue. We were like, we want to pull this. It's just a sleepover. It's just a sleepover. Like, how much work, could it be initially when we were first just dreaming it up, and then we talked to Tina, and we realized how many logistical pieces actually need to go into it to create the beautiful thing that it is. So that goes back to the value, of course, of an event planner, and then somebody that thinks about it from a project management mindset. So, so many wonderful things. But we actually did want to just really quickly talk about like event planners in general, because we totally bow down to you guys. We're just, yeah.
I was gonna say,
Please, yes.
like people have to understand how important, significant, stress relieving having an event planner. And I'm talking from personal experience. So having an event planner on your team for any event. So this year I celebrate 10 years of being married. And when I was getting married 10 years ago, I don't know how many of you remember that show Bridezilla. You guys remember that show Bridezilla?
Yes.
Such a great show. Classic.
I was obsessed with that show. And then I was like, those women are just crazy. Like who would want to marry them? Like, right? So that's the first thing I was thinking, like, they're getting married. But then you realize they were just stressed because they were, doing everything themselves. And that's what I realized as I was watching the show, that I cannot do everything myself, because on the day of, I just want to be relieved and have fun and enjoy the moment or the moments. And so I didn't get an event planner because I kind of had an idea of what I want, and one of my best friends was there, but I hired an event planner to kind of carry us through the last 3 months, and for someone to be there on the day of, because you cannot be in such an emotional state and think of everything and try and have fun and look good. So having an event planner just really, is a blessing. It's a stress reliever. Plus, they love doing it. And so why not, support these businesses, these women, these individuals who are event planning out there. So I bow down to all of you.
Thank you.
Yes.
So that's my story of when I realized the importance and significance of an event planner.
Yes, yeah, and I'll just share too. When we got married in Playa del Carmen in Mexico, and our event planner. I mean, we still like everyone had the most amazing time, and we say it's because of her. Because when you do a destination wedding, it's not just that day; it's the week, and it's the transportation and everything else that had to go into it, and everybody, had the most amazing time. And when somebody thanks you for inviting them and for them to go to your wedding, which was, thousands of miles away. It was a significant investment. And they're like so appreciative, like, thank you so much for like having us at your wedding. Then it's just like the best feeling. So that's our hard eyes for all the event planners out there, because you really do make magic happen. And Tina, you are a wedding event planner, so you are right in the thick of all of that. So if you wouldn't mind sharing with us your background and how you became to be where you are today.
Wow. So my background, actually, my undergrad was in multimedia. I wanted to be in entertainment, in the entertainment industry. I wanted to do productions and direction and producing, but that kind of coincides with project management. So I ended up going towards project management. So I was a digital project management, and I managed mostly web development, software development, and for entertainment companies like Disney. I worked at ABC, and I got to work on the Oscars for a bit. I did 3 seasons of it. So it was fun, but it was chaotic. And when the kids came along, it was sort of like I need to be able to manage my time a little bit better. So the company kind of carried me through all these 10 years, and it's been really fun.
So that's when you decided to jump into wedding planning, once you had the babies and you decided you wanted to have some more flexibility and time.
Well, actually, I was doing event planning before that, but it was more of like a hobby. It was something that I was doing on the side.
Yeah.
And I was still actively pursuing different project management jobs or freelancing gigs. But then when the kids came along, I realized like this is actually perfect. So that I manage my own schedule. I schedule whenever I'm available to meet my clients. I can work really late at night to do the designs while the kids are asleep. So and I mean it worked out. So I love it, and I don't regret doing that.
Yeah, and I mean, you say something that I think so many mompreneurs, entrepreneurs do, and it's like, I did this after the kids were put to sleep. It's like you are balancing, these two worlds, three worlds. How do you even, just keep your sanity most of the time?
You just have to do it. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, we all juggle. I don't know any mom who doesn't juggle. You just have to figure out. So what I was telling somebody is that don't set a crazy standard where you cannot meet. Don't set yourself up for fail. I set myself up to a standard where I definitely could reach, and then my kids are in a satisfactory level, so we're good. My house is a mess, but that's okay. I don't really care. My husband does, but if he wants to clean, he could clean. I like being satisfied and getting really great reviews from our clients. Having a wonderful time at the wedding, and I'm still able to sign up and doing PTA stuff with my kids. I could do arts and crafts. I could chaperone. Field trips. So those little things I care about, and I'm able to do those just because I can let go of the other stuff. I don't care.
And and I love that you say that with such passion, and you really found your purpose and your gift, and you're kind of like pursuing that, and that's an inspiration to a lot of people. But I think also people get inspired, by you living that example and making it happen, but also by hearing about challenges. Can you think of like a challenge that you've overcome, and that could also be inspiring to people?
Yeah. So I remember there was one year that I had this, I had set myself on this crazy, like I have to do an X amount of weddings that year. And I was just working way too hard, and I did not have time for my kids. I sent them off to after school programs and tutors, and the little one goes to the nanny or babysitter. And then at the end of the night, when I get home, they're already asleep. And then I was kind of like having mommy guilt. I was like, why are you doing this for? You're doing this for them, and you totally forgot about it. And so it was a struggle that I had to sort of assess the situation and scale back and figure out what I really want to do and how I can continue balancing, because I still want to be there for my kids, but I still want to continue with this business. So yeah, it's just kind of that's one of the hard things that you have to do. You have to. I don't want to say it's a sacrifice, but it's something that we all have to give and take at one point.
Yeah, mommy guilt is such a real thing. And I think so many moms kind of go through it, and you just have to find, that balance that works for you. And yeah, it's good to kind of set those goals, but at what cost? So,
Right.
yeah, that's really inspiring to kind of just find your own groove.
Yes.
Okay, so think back. You were saying, there was one year that you set all these goals to plan events, but I don't know how many events you've done since your first one. I'm sure it's been a long time. You've had many, many. But can you remember that very first event? Either the very first event or the one that stands out in your memory?
Let me think. I feel like I've been planning events like even from college days, just throwing parties.
Okay,
that counts, right?
The first one you were paid for. Let's go there.
Oh, okay. First one I was paid for. Actually, it was I started out doing my own wedding, and it was pretty organized, and there was no hiccups, and so a lot of my friends starting to come to me, and they're willing to pay me, obviously at a fraction of the price at that time. So I would say it's probably one of my friends' wedding that was held at a private estate in the backyard. And we really mainly just did the coordination of it because she booked all her vendors and took care of everything together. But on the day of, it was a good thing that she had me because her bouquet fell apart. Everybody was late. There was all kinds of drama that happened, but I was there to help her sort of get back on track. And lucky for her as well is that one of our really good friends is a florist who happened to have her toolkit in her car, so she was able to fix a bouquet, basically rewrap the whole thing for her. So DIY brides out there, don't try to do flowers yourself. It would not look good on the wedding day unless you've been trained or you took classes. But if not, then definitely hire a professional.
You sure she wasn't on Bridezilla?
No, I honestly have not had a bridezilla ever. I've had a couple of groomzillas and bridezillas, but never a bride. Like my clients, my brides have always been a really good, like, I look out for red flags. I look out for compatibility to make sure that we are on the same page. We have on the same wavelength. The way that we think it's similar.
So we're talking about style shoots. Let's get into that, and then we have a couple more questions. But I mean, we can, maybe each of us can explain what we think a style shoot is. But I see a style shoot as it's just like an event. All the details go into it, but without the people. And so you do it to kind of capture the images to really highlight the vendors that are there. What would you guys say a style shoot is?
Pretty pictures for Instagram.
That's actually accurate. But so for me, style shoot is actually a way for me to work with new vendors I have not worked with, and vendors that I have worked with to do something creative together. So that's always my first and foremost mindset when I produce or participate in a style shoot, is because I want to work with that person more than the photos that comes out of it, more than the experience that comes out of it. It's just I want to be able to see how this person work, and I want to be able to refer them clients and build some kind of relationship. So that's my first and foremost idea of putting together a style shoot. So and obviously everybody wants beautiful photos and getting recognition by being published. That's the second goal of a style shoot.
And we did hear that from a few different other like vendors and event planners and things. It was like, yeah, it's all about like growing your network, meeting new people. You never know when you may need another person that does custom cookies or florals, or just another event planner to collaborate with. We've been so amazed by the wonderful community that we've been able to work with, and everyone's like excited and they can't wait to see which scene they're going to be in, and it's so much fun. I think that this is a very unique type of styled shoot experience because there's multiple. But what I love is that energy and that camaraderie across the board, where people really do want to meet new people and grow their network.
Yeah, and the collaboration and teamwork, that's the part where you really, feel most rewarded at the end of the day. It's like, hey, I made a new friend. This is somebody that I could, talk about industry, and somebody who understands what the hardship that we go through and how we support each other.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that some folks are also just missing like that feeling of planning an event, like something. I mean, I know there's events that are going on still, of course, and which we're so thankful for. But there's nothing like kind of putting on something where you have so much creativity and all these folks coming together to think about how to make it unique and bigger and better. And I think that feeling really feeds us, especially in this industry. It gives us that energy of like, yes, this is what it's all about. This is what the feeling that I love. Yeah,
for sure.
We have a question from Adana. She says, is Facebook and Instagram the only platforms you use for a style shoot?
what do you mean by platform? But so style shoot, do you mean by gathering the vendors
Well, the
or?
focus question is it live? So I think is it live? It's not live. It is staged. So maybe just explain the stage part and then maybe how the different media people can use the photos for.
Got it. Okay, so for those of you that are maybe starting out or want to get into a different kind of style or category, style shoots are a really great way to get photos to add to your portfolio. So it depends on what everybody's goal is. So let's say I'm a planner. I wanted to do a style shoot that's Disney themed, like a Disney princess theme, but not Disney, just inspired by. So I don't think I could find a client like that yet. But if I put on a style shoot, I do a mock wedding with a model with a Disney princess dress and different elements, the color schemes. And have those photos be placed on my Instagram, my Facebook, and any other social media outlets, on Pinterest, on my website, then maybe one of these, Disney brides will see it and say, hey, I'm going to call Tina because she's done something similar and it's the style that I like. So it's more of a way to showcase your capabilities, I guess. It's not a live event where people get to come and see you do it. There's no guests in there. There are models involved that are pretending to be the bride and groom. Sometimes there are real couples. But yeah, so that's what a style shoot is.
Okay, great. I think that explained it. Adana, let us know if you have a follow-up question. Another question is from Linda. She says, can you explain everyone's role as vendors? I don't know, Patty, if Linda's name is familiar to you, specifically to the festival.
I know Linda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Linda.
That's Linda's question.
Yes, Linda. So it depends on who's the person that started come up with the idea. So I always like to be the producer. So I'm the one that's sort of gathering everybody as the vendors and collaborations together. So it depends on who's organizing the style shoot. So if a photographer has an idea and put together an inspiration shoot, she might be the producer and she will recruit a planner to help make this vision come true. So it just depends on who started with the idea, and if it's like a partnership or a group of people that just come together, like hey, Patty and Iris want to do this style shoot for holidays, then it's a group of planners and they're responsible for each of the individual portion of it. But then they have me as the sort of overarching project manager to oversee to make sure everything is consistent. So there are different roles. And it just depends on who started the project, I guess.
Yeah. So for this one, so Iris and I guess, are the producers, and then Tina, you're co-producer. I don't know. Well, you're project manager.
Actually, you guys would be the producers.
Yeah.
You are finding the sources, you are paying for the things, and connecting everybody. But I'm the project manager to help everybody glue together and stay together.
Right. Yeah. So every vendor will have a different role depending, of course, on what type of service or offering you provide. But as you know, with this styled shoot, or hope if you're not part of the styled shoot, welcome. But most folks, I think, are part of our styled shoot community, and we are pulling together 8 different scenes, and within each of those 8 scenes, we have, Dia de los Muertos, we have Las Posadas, we have Thanksgiving, kids' Friendsgiving, and I know I'm holiday at a house, holiday party at a house, or winter wonderland, holiday party at a restaurant, Kwanzaa, Lunar New Year. I think I got them.
8. Yes, you got it.
I know, that's why I have to count, because I know that there's the 8. So each of those 8 scenes has an event planner. And each of those event planners is creating the vision for that scene. So we gave some general guidelines on, like, hey, it would be great to celebrate, for example, the holiday party at a restaurant. We know that this year, holiday parties or restaurants are right now anyhow, primarily outside. We may get the clear to go inside, and it looks like, hopefully we'll start going that way, but we just don't know. And so we want to really take into consideration things like, safety and not having too many people, at a table. We are so much more aware now of all the just germs and things that can be spread. So with that in mind, plan a lovely holiday dinner at a restaurant. So we gave that direction to the event planner, and that one is Carla from Kiss and Say I Do Events. And Carla came up with this really beautiful kind of Oaxacan inspired dinner with a tequila tasting and, some treats and florals and gifts and all the things, right? So within that scene, she came up with her vision, and then she looked at all the vendors that have signed up, which were about 100 vendors, which is so amazing. Amazing. And then thought about like, okay, who can we bring in to help to complete this scene? So that, as I mentioned, she's got florals, she's got treats, she's got gifts, and a couple of other things. And so that same kind of practice is being applied to all 8 scenes. Tina mentioned she's the glue, and she absolutely is. So she's the one that created like a template that everybody can use. That's exactly the same. So everyone is sharing their inspiration and which rentals we want to use, and which, each event planner completes their template so that it's clear communication across the board from photographer to all the vendors. And then she's also created a master project management. So we're kind of diving into all the ins and outs right now. But this master, she's using a program called Trello, but it's like a master project management document that captures whether or not everyone's completed certain things by certain milestones. So I just wanted to paint a picture of how it's kind of coming together and how everyone's got different pieces of the pie.
Yep.
And there's a couple questions online. The first one is, if published, is everyone notified? So the style guide itself will be a publication. And so everyone will be notified, of course, when it's published. All the vendors that are in there will have attributions. And the idea is that all the vendors that are inside of the style guide have a page on the Festively website. So if you're not familiar with Festively, Patty and I are creating an online marketplace for the event industry. And so the idea is that all the vendors that are going to be featured as a part of the holiday style guide will have the ability to have a page on our marketplace. And then when people click on the guide itself, your particular item in the guide, it drives them directly to your page so that they can transact. At the end of the day, we want everyone to be able to get sales for the holiday season and create a channel for people to get inspired and make a purchase for your product or service for their holiday. And so hopefully that answers your question, Linda. And then if there's any additional social media, we're asking all the vendors to kind of tag each other on social media and make sure that we're mentioning each other if we're sharing photos in which our product is featured with another vendor's product or service. So this is a community. What's your motto, Tina?
What's
Community
my
over collaboration?
community over competition?
Competition. So we want to make sure that we give attribution to everyone that we're partnering with.
and
Do you guys
and
want to add anything to that?
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
no, I was going to say, I know, Tina, you also talked about, and I think also Dee was talking about possibly getting the guide published or with some other channels that showcase parties,
Right.
which we're not as familiar with, but I know you guys are. So I think that was also part of the plan, was to try to get some of those types of other publications to feature these parties, right?
Right. So I really love the idea of doing these parties and help our community out, small businesses. I mean, they could have just a product shop, but having it in a scene of, a Christmas holiday party, it's going to be different, and it's going to be more enticing and help them drive more sales for the holidays, and it's going to pay bills. So, and in terms of how to market this, I mean, you guys already have like a whole marketing plan, but Dee and I were talking about like maybe we could definitely submit these individual style shoes to publications and could get featured potentially and bring more exposure to the holiday guy and each of the participants in the style shoot.
Absolutely. Yeah. We are definitely, and to your point, we do have a whole like marketing plan that's being developed in addition to, you know, just the fact that it's live, which I think, I'm not sure if we mentioned it because it looked like there was a couple of questions too. So this will be a PDF that is like, I always do this when I describe it because, you know, like when you see it on a screen, you can turn the pages. Yeah, flip book, turn the pages. And that's because and there'll be a link to this flip book. And then because it's easier to distribute, right? You can send this out to all the different associations and businesses and things that we work with. And that's a great place for people to be able to see it that way. And then you can, once you're in that lookbook, you can click through and get to our site. I do see a question on the chat as well about, do the vendors give you guys a percentage? So the way that our site works is if you put your listing on our create a listing, there is a 7% fee that comes back to Festively. But what we say is add that back into your costs, right? So this is your published price online. So if you want to make sure that you're, you know, getting whatever amount that you definitely need to get to produce your cookies or whatever it is, your profit margin. Yeah, build that in so that, you know, you are able to get everything that you absolutely need. And then the other thing about it is when you actually publish on Festively, you have a showroom. We call it like a showroom, and there you can list your website, your contact information, your social media, and things like that. Because, you know, we're still driving traffic to you guys. You guys are the superstars. I mean, and you're gonna create sales the way that you normally do. People are still going to reach out to you. So it's not like you can only purchase things on our site, but we want to give people a very easy way to transact and be able to check out and reserve right there and then.
There was another question that passed. I think you were able to answer it, Patty, but I want to make sure that they were able to catch it. So it was, how are the vendors being chosen? And so like Patty was explaining, there's 8 scenes being led by 8 different event planners. And so the event planners are going to look through all of the vendors that have signed up and then match that vendor's product or service with the scene that they are creating. In addition to that, we are going to be featuring flat lays, so individual photos of products and services that are not matched with a particular scene. We're still going to have a part of the book where some of the vendors are showcased as part of a scene, and then we'll have individual items on page in categories such as gifts for him or gifts for her or gifts for the family. And so we want to make sure that everyone that signed up to participate gets featured in the guide itself.
Yeah, that's an important distinction because I know that when we've described it, it can be a little bit hard to imagine, and we can probably, you know, I know as we have follow-up emails that we send out to our community of vendors, we'll send a link to some of the examples that we've seen online. But we plan to do, you know, these beautiful like scenes, and then which are clicked through. You know, say there's the cookies. I keep mentioning cookies because it's easy to point out, right? You got say it's our Thanksgiving scene, and you've got the cake on the screen. You can click through and see how to purchase the cake from that actual photo. And then we'll also have the gift guide portion, to Iris's point, which is these collections of gift ideas for gifts for him, gifts for her. And this is partially, you know, some things are just suited more for a gift. There are several different vendors that do like really cool T-shirts and other things that are, you know, maybe won't, like, since we're not really featuring a lot of people in the styled shoots, it may not actually make its way into the main scene. But if we have a collection of gifts for her, we've got these really cute shirts and jewelry or whatever it is, our stylist will be putting a beautiful flat lay together, and it'll be the same experience where there'll be decorative items around. So it'll still look very beautiful, but you can still click through and make the purchase on the site.
There's a specific question from Adana. I don't know if either of you know her. Okay, so if you don't, Adana, please send us a direct message because we'd like to follow up with you. I know you have a great interest in what we're doing, so we want to make sure that we capture all of it. So send us a DM. Wait, it's on Facebook. To send us a messenger.
Messenger.
I'm just responding on Instagram. Okay, so we're here to give people Tina's 5 tips for
My
planning
5
a
tips.
shoot. So we don't want to leave our audience today without those 5 tips. So Tina, what have you got for us?
So my 5 tip is coming from a planner's perspective. I'm sure for the photographers and the stylists and the designers have different best practices, but mine's coming from more of a planner's and the organizer's perspective. So number 1 is communication is the key. Over communicate. You tell them what you want to shoot, what you want, when you want to shoot, and what's in the shot. Everything that you could think of, communicate that to the entire team so that everybody's on the same page. When I start any project, I put together a sort of a project scope and ask a whole bunch of questions to everybody, and then gather all that information and put together into a sort of like a presentation deck to as a proposal kind of. So it's easier is that when I approach to different vendors, they'll be able to understand what I'm trying to achieve and be on the same page. And if they're looking for something else and it's not a good fit for them, then it's, we don't have to go through the drama of, yes, you're good, no, I'm not. So we can skip all of that and it's just match the right person from the get-go. So that's number 1. Communication is the key. And number 2 is stay organized. When you're managing a style shoot, there's a lot of moving parts. There's contact lists, there's venues, there's parking instruction, there's loading zone information, there's schedules and timings, and you have to help the photographer by thinking about sunset times and where is the sun setting, which direction is it, is there going to be shade. So try to stay organized, and I use different methods of doing or try to organize the projects. It's either in Google Drive, just a spreadsheet with everything in different tabs, just keeping track of things. Or if you have too many cooks in the kitchen, sometimes it's better to have like a visual board. So for this holiday shoot, we're using the Trello board so that each individual planner has their own little list of things that they have to do and deadlines that they have to follow, so that it's easier for us, the producers and the project managers, to sort of see on a bird's eye view to see, oh, what's missing? Do you need help? Are you stuck somewhere? And how can we help you? So staying organized is really important. Another thing about staying organized is all the documents that you have to collect. I don't know, not a lot of people do this, but I definitely want to make sure that you have some kind of a vendor agreement, contracts and things like that in there. Insurance, some of the venue require that you have insurance, liability insurance, and make sure you collect a copy of that certificate. And if you have models at your style shoot, make sure you have a model release lined up from everybody, just so that you have a place to go to after the shoot. If anything happens or if you need documentations, you have it all ready to go. Any questions so far?
Well, it just, you said communication, but within that, and then the organization within that, there is a lot. And I'm writing down, I'm sure everybody else is. But you mentioned several documents that are really helpful to make sure that you are. So one of the things we said about Tina that she's great at is risk management. So she'll see what's going on and say, where are the chances for failure, for for risk? Have you thought about this? So I think that mindset, and maybe you'll get toward that, but that's really important because, asking some of these hard questions and dealing with them up front is going to save you so much anxiety and worry later on, because everyone's thinking it, right? Everyone's worried about the same things. And so I'll say one of the things that you didn't mention in that list was the safer events guidelines,
Right.
I think is what you created. And I'll let you talk about that. But, during COVID, of course, like this is, really scary times. We want to protect everybody and make sure that we are all working with the same professionalism and considerations and things like that. And so Tina and Dee put together this document. Do you want to share what that is?
Yeah, so when COVID hit and everybody was scrambling and looking for the venue for a guideline and looking for the CDC and just looking for somebody to be responsible. And then I attended one of these online webinars that's hosted by another huge national organization. And I realized, you know what, it's everybody's responsibility to make sure the virus is not spreading, make sure that we're practicing safe distancing and we're wearing masks and all kinds of procedures and protocols in place. So it's not just the venue, it's not just the planner, and it's not just the vendors, it's everybody, including the host and including the guests. And so Dee Lee from Dee Lee Designs and I put together this we call it a safer event playbook. It's not to prevent anything, it's not to minimize anything, but we just want to produce safer events. So it has like a list of things for each type of categories of vendors to figure out what to do on their part, so that we could create a safer space. So for style shoots, we know there's limits. We want to make sure we do as much as shoots outside. We want to make sure we have limited people. We have staggering deliveries, so there's nobody too close together, and we want to make sure everybody's wearing masks. We want to make sure if the shoot's too long, then everybody gets a break time to get fresh air somewhere outdoors. So those are those things that we are putting in place when we do events. And like Patty says, I am the half glass empty type. So I'm always like, what if? It never hurt to have a contingency plan and a backup plan, and because once you have that in place and it's all agreed upon with the entire group, then it's easy to just say it's a go or a no go, or should we just execute and move on, instead of trying to figure that out on the spot, which is it's going to take friction, it's going to take time. But if it's all agreed upon in the beginning, then you should be all good to go.
And your glass half empty, or full, whatever. But not in a negative way. Like you're not like, you don't.
I'm not saying that it's gonna fail. I'm saying that let's prevent it from happening.
No, but I mean that's what I was just gonna say, is that you are pointing out things that again, we don't always want to talk about, but it's again what everybody's thinking, and let's make sure we do it. The other thing is just when you were saying stay organized, it's like, as you find out little bits of information, write it down somewhere, because it could come up later. Like one of the things you pointed out, so the software that we're using for the guide is, it costs whatever, per month. And so Tina's like, make sure you note that the software does everything that you're supposed to do, and you noted the price. So I'm like, thank you, because we just assumed we were going to pay for this.
For the guide, yes.
Yeah. Anyhow, just to say, even the little things come back and are really important. So
and that sort of goes into budgeting. I think Linda has a question about how to pay for the style shoots, and that sort of segue into it. That goes sort of into budgeting for a style shoot and for any project. You probably have a cost, and florists have a cost, and anybody that's bringing in a certain thing have a cost. So communicate and ask if you need somebody to help you pay for it, if you want to split the cost to get the materials, and just come to an agreement, come to terms. That's all it is. Just talk about it. My next tip is actually to never assume, but we'll get to that. So yeah, well, that's for sort of a budget and communication and staying organized. Ready for the next one?
Yeah.
The next one is never assume. That's my tip. Never assume anything. Don't assume that the rental company we're all human. So, somebody's going to make a mistake, and that's okay. But it could ruin your shoot if that happens. So you never assume that the rental company is going to give you the exact count of napkins. Always order extras, and same thing with, dinnerwares and things like that, or glass. It could, a few of them could break, during transportation, and now you're short 2 glasses for your entire shoot. So never assume that everything will be perfect. So always have a backup plan and extras. And there are so many times where we rented linens and then we assume that they're going to come perfectly pressed. But as soon as you open it, there's creases. And so I never assume that it's coming perfect. And I always have a little mini, either an iron or a steamer, just to make sure that everything looks perfect. And never assume that the photographer knows what shot you want without talking to them. You have to show them some samples, like this is the type, this is the shot that I want a medium shot, I want a wide shot, I want a close up. Talk to them about it, at certain angles, that's what you want. If you want behind the scene, talk to them about it so that they understand what shot you want to get, so that you guys are on the same page on the day of the shoot. So nobody's psychic, so don't assume that they understand what you want. And
you like to, just sorry not to interrupt, but for that, like, you like to go to Pinterest and how do you like to find, or Instagram, like you look at how other photographs were taken and then you just pretty much copy that and say, I want this. Yeah.
So part of our style guide, I think on the last page, is sort of like a shot list, like what type of shot you're looking for. Grab it from the Pinterest, grab it from Google image search, grab it from Instagram. So that sort of gives the photographer an idea of how you want your product to be shot, or if it's a model or a certain, emotional evoking scenes. If you want those, then you definitely should have a sample, so that the photographer knows. And the stylist too, if you have a stylist that's doing the flat lays and things like that. And there's a lot of don't assume. So don't assume, the florist will bring extra flowers for you to use from different things. Everything has a cost in it. If you want something extra, ask for it and make sure they're okay with it. And then when you have models, don't assume the model is going to come in their proper undergarment. If especially you have wardrobe, make sure you give them the instructions. If you need them to hold on to a cup of water, make sure you tell them they need to get their mani done, because their hand's going to be modeling. So those are the little things that you don't assume, and you always communicate. I'm an over communicator. I'm pretty sure my vendors are like, Tina, are you sending me another timeline? I'm good.
And but that's just like, thank you, Tina.
Yes. Now you guys know why we were like, Tina, we have like the vision, but we need your help to bring it all together.
And then, at one time, I think I started, because I have an Apple Watch, and then I started doing, I would basically export the entire day's schedule into a format where you could import it to your calendar and you could see it on your watch. So I get this so many times. Photographer will always come to me and go, what's coming up next? And I'm like, did you not read the timeline? And the worst part is when the DJ asks you, it's like, no, are you serious? I printed it for you and I handed it to you. But I noticed that when we give them the exported version, they would just look at the watch and they could swipe and see what's next, and they would never bother me. So I think it depends on who we're working with, but that's something that we're offering as an option to our vendors, so that it makes their life easier, and I don't have to sound like a broken record and keep repeating things.
Love it.
All right, so number what am I? 4?
4, because I think budget was half.
Budget was sort of part of stay organized, right? So communication, stay organized, and never assume, and details. The whole purpose of you doing the style shoot is to get the details of your creation. So if you're a florist, want to make sure you get all shots and all angles of your flowers, a person holding it, sitting it on a chair, sitting it on the floor, somebody laying next to it. Just all the detail that you could think of. If you have a stationary design, you want to do a flat lay, make sure you have maybe a ring box next to it. You have some jewelries, you have all these additional accessories, ribbons that goes with it. So all the little detail counts. And if you're not providing, if the style shoe or the collaborating team is not providing it, then bring it. Bring yourself, make your own little styling kits, and then bring a little tote bag with you. And then that way, whoever's styling it or the photographer is like, it's missing something, then you have something ready to go to throw it in the photos. And for me, like I create a setup guide for every event that I do. And that's sort of discussed with our client where they want things laid and how they want things to lay out. We would do mock-ups, we would do sketches, and put it in this guide so that on the day of the event, my assistants know exactly what to do. They don't have to come back to me and say, this is look right. And if any of my assistants called in sick and I have to bring somebody on board, I have a document to be able to ready to hand off, and they can handle it from there on with minimal supervision. So it's on the guide. So those goes into sort of the details. And last tip is, really focus on teamwork. I know that you put in a lot of effort in putting together the style shoe and contributing a product or something to it, but remember that it's a teamwork. The photographer will not have any pretty shots without the florist. The florist will not have any pretty shots without the models. Everything's not going to come together without a planner. So we are all here to support each other and back each other up. So it's really all about teamwork, and everybody should respect each other's contribution and the professionalism. So those are my 5 tips.
Those
Awesome.
were awesome. I know
Thank you.
No one's typing, everyone's writing.
Yeah, it's quiet on the chat because we're.
I think the last one was so important because, like, we come together, all these, everyone is a professional in their own space. Project manager, photographer, we have a stylist, everyone has their own contribution, and it's such a great experience to kind of work with these women who know their craft, who are so talented, and then when it all just comes together, it's so beautiful and amazing for all of us. So it was a tremendous experience when we worked with you and the team in February, and it's been a really great experience now that the team is much larger, the scope of the project is much larger, and so I'm just excited for everything that's going to come out of this.
I'm excited too.
Yeah. So we're 52 minutes in, lady. I don't know if you guys realize that.
Wow.
That went by fast.
Very good. Any last thoughts from any of you before we close out and say goodbye?
Nothing. I think, when it comes down to the end of the day, whether you get published or not, just enjoy the process of being creative, I guess, and making friends and, talking about things and learning from each other. I think that's the most important part, that everybody has a story to tell. So learning from each other is the best way.
That's such a great way to kind of wrap up what we're trying to get from you and this experience in general. It really is like enjoying the ride. It's something really fun and exciting to work with a lot of different folks. And, it's not about just like getting it done. It's about like, what am I learning along the way? Who's doing really great things that I can, just give kudos to and really appreciate all the things that they're doing. So
Yay.
yeah, it's really awesome. And so now we are very close to the next phase. So as of today, all of the event planners have submitted their at least draft concepts for the different styled shoots. So we have started to go through and like make sure, like looking at all the different vendors. Iris and I are going to meet a little bit later this evening to go through it one more time. And then all the different participants should be hearing probably tomorrow. I don't think it'll be today. After all, we were trying to get started today, but most likely tomorrow we'll start hearing from the planners about, you know, which shot you're in.
Yep.
Yay!
Yay.
So awesome. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you, Tina, for giving us all your wonderful tips.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. We'll probably also, I know there's a question about this will stay in the Facebook group, but we'll put it on our YouTube and share it with the group as well as a recap to the folks that are part of the style shoot in case you missed it. And some of those documents that Tina shared, you'll be receiving actually. So if you're curious, like, what are those documents? Tina and Iris are actually working on kind of finalizing those to get those out to you. So you'll have a hard copy or a digital copy of it, not only for this shoot, but perhaps to use as an example for yours going forward. So,
yay!
Awesome.
All right. Well,
All
have
right.
a good evening, everyone.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Take care.